I think we're live. I'm just going to wait and see if everything catches up. In the meantime, I'm just going to say hello to a couple of people that are in the chat. The Opposite Series, nice to see you in. AJM, nice to see you in, fella. Flat Out Faith and Locken16, nice to see you in too. Okay, so the stream looks like it's running perfectly well. And as you can see by the title that I've given to this this video, Globtards out in full force, damage limitation crew enlisted. Indeed, because this fella here, this dumbfuck, this, I don't even want to call him any other name than dumbfuck, Ruhif. Now, he only ever comes out and raises his head above the parapet when there is some damage limitation to actually be done. In this case, it's against taboo conspiracy. Now, can anybody think why he would have a hard-on for taboo conspiracy at this moment in time? Nice to see you in, Alan McDonald and Roger MC. Nice to see you in. Well, I can tell you why. And it's, well, first we'll play his video and then we'll go into the reasons as to why he has a hard-on for taboo conspiracy right now. Now, obviously, Taboo Conspiracy and myself, we work along the very same lines. We are very optical orientated. We get out there and we do stuff. And I can tell you firsthand that when you first start off doing this research, you are going into it as a complete newbie. You don't have any rules to follow. You aren't given any advice. There's nobody there to walk you through stuff. There's not a book you can go to that tells you how to do this stuff. Essentially, you're out there going about doing stuff, doing observations, putting videos out to try and navigate the way to an understanding. Now, Taboo Conspiracy right now, Ben, is he's better known, if you guys know who that is. Anyway, Ben, he and myself are far more advanced down the line than we were when we first started doing our observations. Now, what Ruhif has done is he's put a video out against Taboo Conspiracy from a video that Taboo Conspiracy did on his old channel that was shut down, and this observation was taking place many years ago. So way back at the very beginning, when Taboo Conspiracy first started to actually look into this stuff, when he was first finding his feet, when he was first getting his camera out and doing these observations and seeing distant buildings and stuff, whilst he was still very green, and he put his video out, the channel's long gone, you know, YouTube got rid of that. He also makes reference in the video to him losing his channel. Now, he says that it's because he's putting crap stuff out. No, it's nothing to do with crap stuff and getting warnings, it's because he's speaking the truth. Now, this is what their narrative is. I'm going to play some of the video. But listen, this guy's dragging up old research. Very old research. Research that's actually helped Taboo Conspiracy to get to where he is right now. Back in the day, when I was doing like this observation here, right? This observation. And I called it a new location where I can really smash the ball, right? Now, I received a lot of stick about this particular video. And you can see why. Because you have physical water obstructing the buildings in the distance. The trouble is, I didn't realize at the time that I was visualizing a tidal bore in action, which is well renowned in this location. And that basically means you have a dry bed and you have the tide pushing in and the water is being funneled up a channel, causing a artificial height in the water in a certain location. And this is exactly what I was filming. But I put the video out and I was a little bit, you know, oh, I can see physical obstruction here. But this, you can see, you can just look at it. It isn't the reified edge of a sphere. You can actually just see that by the actual footage. You can just see that it's water being shoved up this channel. Well-known phenomena in this location. But this was part of my education into flat Earth. Now, the Globers have come back and said, this is perfect proof of a curvature of the Earth, yeah? And they will use this video against me because the lighthouse, the bottom of the lighthouse is missing, etc., etc. It's a tidal bore, and the height of the water was actually higher than my tripod. And this is the effect that you will get if you are lower than the water, pushing up the stream as a tidal bore. Now, this was my research. This is my mistake. This is what I learned. I learnt this. This is part of my hard knocks, and this is why the video's still up. There's nothing we're going to hide. And Taboo Conspiracy put this video out years ago, and Ruhif is dragging this shit up. So let's play a bit of the video.
Alrighty. This is a response to a Taboo Conspiracy video from quite a while ago. It's actually from his original Taboo Conspiracy channel, which is the one that got terminated by YouTube because he was spreading conspiracy theories about the Christchurch mosque shootings. Pretty sure he got a warning first from YouTube, but he's a fucking idiot. So he kept posting, and YouTube killed his channel.
So there we go. So because he's an idiot and because he was putting videos out which in his own opinion may or may not have been the true reporting of a supposed shooting that happened in Christchurch, YouTube removed his channel. Free speech was censored, and Ruhif thinks it's now absolutely fine to drag that up and make it out as if he's in some way responsible for him losing his channel, when ultimately it's the fact that he lost his ability to have free speech.
I think he had about 11,000 subs or so at the time, which he has managed to regain, so well done, Taboo Conspiracy. So the video I'm actually responding to only exists as a mirror from this guy, Casus Paithoth. Anyway, what I want to point out in my video...
yes, it's only available as a mirror because it was done a very, very, very long time ago. Now, it's interesting that he's picked a video that he's able to manipulate and use for proof of sphericity. Now, I'm not going to say that his calculations are wrong in this case, and Taboo Conspiracy was incorrect in his diagnosis of what he was actually seeing. However, the fact to drag it up and make it out as if he's in some way now debunking the current Taboo Conspiracy in his and where he is now in his journey is totally fallacious. It's like me going back to, let's say, here we go, sneak boat. It's like me going back to this observation when the Globers used to tell us that the inferior mirage was where the curvature of the Earth started. It's like going back to this observation here and seeing two boats with inferior mirages at higher points upon each of the boat, proving conclusively once and for all, and this isn't the only one by the way, proving conclusively, here we go, inferior mirage on the boat in the foreground, inferior mirage on the boat in the background, two different heights, conclusively debunking the notion that the inferior mirage was the leading edge of the sphere, right? Do we harp on endlessly and pick out Globers for all their rhetoric when they used to turn around and tell us, you see where that inferior mirage is? Yeah, that's where the edge of the sphere is. Do we go back to that? Do we continually have to drag up people that have made reference to this? No, it's part of the education of learning. So well done, Ruhif. You have been trotted out, you brought out a video, you proved that the observation wasn't a flat earth proof. Well done. But how about you try addressing his more recent work? Now then, I actually left a comment on here. I'll see if I can actually, here we go. I'm actually at the top. Nice cherry picking. Maybe you should try addressing some of his more recent work. He says, I'll address anything he wants me to if he unblocks me and actually engages in conversation. So he will address anything, but he needs to be unblocked to do this, right? So it's all right for him to address him whilst, so he's still blocked, right? But he's addressing him on an old video when he was doing his research and first starting off, yeah? So he's all right to address that, but now he won't address his more recent work until he gets unblocked. So he's putting some kind of caveat on this, that I won't do what you want me to do unless he unblocks me. But I will go back to his old work, you know, a bit like this, bit of this cherry picking stuff. Go back to your old work whilst you're still researching and understanding the nature of Earth and how things work in this world. Go back to that kind of stuff and try to mitigate his more recent work, his more recent findings. So that's what you will do, Ruhif, is that right? Because I've left a comment here. Yeah, sure, let's start with flat water. Horizon tests prove the physical horizon to be far further than the supposed globe edge. Can you debunk this? If the horizon over water should be 4 miles away, but water can be measured at 12 miles away, how is this explained in your fantasy model? Go! Ranty flat earth, refraction. And that's usually where flirts block me rather than trying to learn something. So it's refraction, apparently. So observations where you see the water, flat water, at a very, very, very long distance is always refraction. That is their answer to everything. They can't prove it. But what they can do is they can try and go back and try and discredit somebody on a video that they did years ago when they were still finding their feet in this. And that's all they do. They won't address the current research. They go back to the old stuff that they think they can get a win about, and they'll put your name in the title. Look, Taboo Conspiracy. Yeah? That's how they do it. They try to put stuff out to try and mitigate the work that the person is doing currently. And this is why I've titled the stream, The Globtards Out in Full Force, Damage Limitation Crew Enlisted. Because the video that he put out recently, the video that Quantum Eraser highlighted yesterday on the Ballbusters channel, the video that he's mirrored, Taboo Conspiracy, on his own channel, of the Quantum Eraser Ballbusters show, is so damning to the globe. So damning that they need to put this stuff in. They need to try and put as much bullshit out there to try and discredit him rather than addressing the current research. Quantum Eraser. Let's have a look at Quantum Eraser. Now, if I put Quantum Eraser in, it doesn't bring anything up. You have to actually search for the channel. This is how they get around. This is how they actually suppress us. But let's have a look at the video that he did last night. Let's look at this Ballbusters video. It was a very long stream. I was actually on it. Great introduction, by the way. I mean, whoever made the introduction for the new Ballbusters show, fantastic. It is absolutely brilliant. Let's see if we can get some of the imagery up that shows this apparent refraction of water at very great distances. Now, I'm hoping to find one particular. Well, here's one for start. Look at this one.
The horizon is...
Right, here we go. So, if you remember this video, who was it? National Geographic went along and they tried to do this observation over this lake. And they claimed that all of this flag, well, part of the flag, was missing to Earth curve. Now, I think the white band would have been where Earth curve would have been, but it's quite obvious that you can see the red band underneath it. The point that I'm making out here, and what Taboo Conspiracy points out, is that the horizon is beyond the boat. The horizon is way beyond the boat. It's not here. It's not down here. You can actually see that the horizon is beyond the boat. Now, if this is where Earth curve is supposed to be, how come we're seeing the horizon far further away? And this isn't a one-off observation. This is done thousands of times on thousands of people's videos where we see the horizon at a far greater distance than the reified edge of this sphere should be. You know? Because if we're seeing further than where the Earth curve should be on a globe model, then the globe model doesn't work. It's not right. But Ruhif will come back and say, no, this is now. So everything up to the Earth curve here is real, and everything beyond that is a mirage. It's not really there. It's refraction. What utter knobjocks. But rather than prove it, rather than go out and find some proof Find some proof of looming. Go ahead. Go and find us some proof of looming. Here we go. Here's Taboo Conspiracy again. He was out doing this observation of these platforms.
Based on the official dimensions of the globe.
Put that on pause for a second. These 3 platforms. And you can clearly see the bases of all 3 platforms. You can see the horizon way, way off in the distance. And according to Dumbfuck Ruhif, this is all loomed. It's all a mirage. It's all not really there. But rather than go and prove it and bring some evidence of this, no. What they will do this bullshit, and they will keep going back. Oh, I've come off his video now. They'll go back and they will try and drag you up old stuff from a long time ago that has no relevance on the current research that's being done. Address the work that's being done right now. Because you cannot have flat water on a globe. You can't. You have a dimensions. 7.98 inches per mile squared is the distances involved when you are working with water. Water has to conform to the gravitational force of gravity, the centre of the earth pulling it into a sphere. It has to curve at that rate. You cannot have a horizon that's further than that. You can't see water beyond the horizon. It is impossible on your globe model. You can't have flat water. It's as simple as that. But they won't address this research. Forget the idea that buildings are loomed. Now they're saying water's loomed up too. So water's being loomed up as well. That right, globe heads? Address the current research. Don't go back over the old stuff whilst we were still learning, whilst we were still finding our feet. You know, back when Nathan first started his show off, do you think he had all the answers back then? Do you think he had gas pressure without a container? Do you think he had all that kind of stuff back then? Do you think when you first came in for the first couple of 100 shows and the globe heads used to fill up the panel, that then when they thought they had the answers? No, we had to go in and get beat up every single time. We had to learn our stuff. Now the boot's on the other foot, and we're demanding that you globeheads address the current research. But all you can do is try and go back and find the old stuff. Go over the old stuff when we're finding our feet. And just by linking his name in your video, you are literally proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's what you're doing. You're trying to go back and damage limitation, because the work that he's doing now is far superior than anything that you guys have ever put out. And we're all on the same boat here. It's not just Taboo Conspiracy. There's myself, there's Sleeping Warrior, there's Nathan Oakley, there's Quantum Eraser, there's Globebusters, there's Jerenism. We're all out there and we're all hammering the fuck out of you guys. And you can't come back with anything. You can't prove any single thing. Because you have no scientific proof. You have no evidence of anything. It's all just bullshit rhetoric. You can't think for yourself. You would rather believe that everything you see is a hologram. It's garbage. Let's go back to his video. Let's go back. This is Quantum Eraser channel, by the way. Go and subscribe today if you haven't already. In order to find him, you have to actually search for the channel. You can't just put Quantum Eraser and then he'll pop up. You have to actually then filter it into the channel. Here, this was the results for Quantum Eraser. You don't find his channel that way. You have to use the filter. But anyway, going back to Ruhif and putting Taboo Conspiracy in the name of his video, going over stuff from years ago. One observation. Talk about cherry picking to try and discredit the work that he's doing right now. You garbage dweller. Sleepy, do you want to come on? Let us know if you want to come on, Sleepy. I'll bring you in. You can have a chat about this if you want. See if you've got anything to add. Let's see. Look at the likes to the dislikes. I mean, come on. 148 people like this. They love it. 3 don't. 148 like it. He's only had 385 views. That's a high like to view ratio. Seriously. I mean, to be getting that kind of likes, almost 50%, just on the views alone. I mean, these guys are desperate to like anything, to like it just because it gives them a comfort blanket. Man. Right, I'm going to do some shout outs. Let's see who's in. Let's drag this over here and let's see who we've got in. Right, Rude Earther, nice to see you in. Gary Bennett, Alan McDonald, JJ, Sprout Lover, what a name. I think that's a Nathan ripoff as well, isn't it? Darkstar, nice to see you in. Martin Ellen, Good Servant, AJ&M, I've already said hello. Unbelievable Productions, Alan McDonald, Gary Bennett, and lots more. Roger MC, Refraction. Yeah, indeed, that's what they say. Refraction. Tony, do you want to come in? Do you want me to give you a bell? If you do, let us know. In fact, I'll just give you a call now, see if you're around. See. I don't think he's online. Nah, he's not online. Right, okay. So who've we got in anyway? So Be Skeptical of Everything, nice to see you in. Ruhif, yeah, if you want to come and talk to me about this fella, get your ass on here and explain yourself. Who else do we have in? Sandra Woods, nice to see you in. Looking for some answers here, Ruhif. Why are you dragging up old stuff? Why aren't you addressing the new stuff, Ruhif? And I know you're awake. You got me on Skype. Maybe I should try calling you. Let's see if you can get your ass on here. Let's see. Let's see. No, he's not called Ruhif on here, is he? He's called that. And he's online, look at this. He's active now, let's see if he picks up. Oh, bless. He doesn't want to answer the Skype call. What a surprise. Call declined. Glenn's typing. Oh, he's messaged me. What's up? I'm live. Do you wanna chat? Nah, he doesn't want to chat. He doesn't want to chat. What a surprise. What a surprise. Right, okay. Maybe he wants to reschedule. Maybe next week. Yeah, maybe not. It's interesting that you want to put a video out, like I say, trying to discredit somebody and their old work rather than addressing the new work, and get lots of plaudits for it. I find it very disingenuous. Very, very disingenuous indeed. But it's all the Globe have right now. They'll rather attack somebody for their early research whilst they're still finding their feet, still using their equipment, trying to find things out. You know, and they get better. And I'm sure that Taboo Conspiracy at the time, Ben at the time, probably had people commenting on this particular video, and he probably maybe even addressed it and said actually that this was no longer, in his opinion, a flat earth proof. It's quite likely that that was the case, because I know what Ben's like, and he would have been willing to rectify that, a bit like myself. If we're wrong, we're wrong. So I'm sure that this has already been addressed anyway. I'm sure that the fact that this video was put out and was mirrored by somebody else, it isn't, you know, it's somebody else that has the video that's put this out that he's now going back over. You know, I mean, the fact that it's probably already been addressed, already been, okay, it was a nice observation on a nice day, no real flat earth proofs there, but hey ho, it's one of them. You know, it's all about learning your equipment. And then Ruhif suddenly decides that by tagging his name in, he can try and put enough bullshit out there to try and discredit the work that he's doing right now. And it's interesting that we'll go back to his old videos on his old channel when he was still learning. Because if you go back to his new channel, Taboo Conspiracy 2, you'll actually see that all the work that he has up there now is excellent. You know, his original channel, where he had all his old stuff up whilst he was still finding his feet, probably had a lot of stuff in there that wasn't flat earth proofs. And this isn't a flat earth proof video. It isn't. Even though at the time it might have been thought of that it was. He obviously made a mistake in identifying a particular building. Well done. Well done. Riley! I can't hear you, mate, so you're going to have to move your wires around, mate. Keep trying. Come on, mate, you must know where these wires go by now. There we go. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Well, I guess Riley's got a poor network connection right now. What's he saying? Oh, dear me. Oh, we can all connect and grow. Right, let's see. Whilst he's trying to, I'll cancel him off. Right, what's he put? Right, let's call Riley back again. Hopefully his connection's working now. Right, he has a very poor connection. Right, okay, so you Globtard crew, you're all the same. Indeed, and you know, I mean, it is. I mean, if you go to my channel, you'll probably see a couple of hundred videos up there, yeah? And there's probably 50 videos up there that I've put out and said, you know what, I can't see bugger all today. The weather's crap, this is the issues, this is blah 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 blah. And then there's probably 50 or 60 videos out there that show beautiful flat earth proofs. And then there's probably 50 or 60 videos that show inferior mirages and blockage and stuff like this. And the whole body of research, the whole point of putting all these videos out is it's a documentation of the location, it's a documentation of the different weather conditions, it's a documentation of research that people can go back to and use to try and formulate reasonable results from the actual, or reasonable conclusions from what we're actually seeing. What the Globers will do is they will just cherry pick a video here and cherry pick a video there, and they will lie about stuff. They will say that there's a boat going over the curve when there was no such thing as a boat going over the curve. It disappears into the inferior mirage, it gets squashed into the inferior mirage, you actually see it. It's been misrepresented. It's what the Globers do. But what they will do is they will go to things like this video, and I keep going back to this video, and rather than address the fact that now which is well known and is probably understood by everybody that's ever seen this video, now knows that this is the visualization of seeing a tidal bore rush up, barrow in furnace, up the estuary, and this is the effect of that tidal bore being pushed up, basically up a very narrow channel. It's a well-known phenomena in this particular location. Riley. Right, when you sorted your mic issues, get in touch, mate. So, yeah, it's a well-known phenomena in this location, but they will go back and say, proof of curve, there's blockage there. Physical obstruction, it must be earth curve. Because every other time that he goes down here and he films, he generally sees shore to shore. But this particular time, when he's a little bit nearer and he's filming as the tidal bore pushes in, he's actually seeing a little bit of obstruction. It must be earth curve. Now this is the way they misrepresent. So they will title me in a video and they will claim they won't do any refraction videos, they'll leave the videos up there. They'll leave it up there and they'll just keep referring back to it. They won't address the evidence, the points. A bit like this guy, Ruhif. He won't address this point. Riley's just put, give me a sec, the internet is acting daft. He's rebooting his modem. Sounds good. Right, who else have we got in? Let's see. Rep Priestley, nice to see you in. Hazmat, a few people announcing in a while actually. Mind you, I haven't streamed very much recently. Oh, by the way, I will be going live again later today because I will be. Or maybe I should just do it now. I don't know. I'll see what happens when Riley comes in. But I have the results through of the Triggered Earther of the year. I've got my top 3. I have my top 3. So out of the original 11, we have a result for the top 3. I've got a little video to play that I've put together a few clips of the top 3. So, and then I'll be opening up those particular people for nominations again, and we'll be doing the results in the early new year. So, I was thinking of doing a particular show to it, but as I'm going live actually right now, I might just do it here. Right, let's see who else is in. Emma UK, nice to see you in. Right, Sandra Woods, nice to see you in too. Right, so I've had a couple more comments from Ruhif. Wow, a stream all about little old me. I'll watch in the morning and he's flattered. Well, you shouldn't be flattered, you cherry-picking twat. You should be very disappointed in yourself, actually. You should be holding your head in shame that you would rather go back to somebody's original work from a long, long time ago that has probably already been retracted. Probably already been retracted by Ben himself and admitted that he made errors in the video. And so dragging up old content to try and mitigate his exceptional work more recently is very poor form. Really poor form. You should be shaking your head and asking, people should be asking you why you are not addressing the more recent work. And I'll tell you for why, because any knob jockey who puts their stamp of approval on the idea that when you see flat water and you see a horizon that's far further away than should be on a globe model, that any reasonable person that then out of the mouth speaks the words, it's being refracted, it's being loomed up, how they actually get those words out of the mouth when they say it without vomiting at the same time. How I can understand why you are reluctant to put a video out that actually says that actually says when you see a distant shoreline, it's being loomed up, without ever having any evidence or proof of such a nonsensical thing ever happening. There's no demonstrable proof that you can have ambient light being lifted up beyond the curvature of Earth. There is no proof of that. But to actually spout it out of your mouth, to actually say it, to put your mark of approval on that and say, it's being loomed up. It must be galling for you guys to actually even think about saying that. So it's far easier for you to go back to a video where you can just go from point A to point B to point C, and this is the building that we're trying to find. Yes, we can all do that, Ruhif. Yes, and you were very precise with your work, and it's all very evident what you were actually, where we were getting. We were getting to the punchline of the fact that the building that he originally thought was one particular building was in fact this water tower here. Yes, it's all very good. Yes, that's very good. But then try and show us a video where you actually tell us that it's looming. Tell us that it's looming, Ruhif. Go on, say it out of your mouth. Yes, it's being loomed up. Because I don't know how you can actually say it without having any evidence of it whatsoever. No proof. You just believe in a sphere. Riley, are you there? Same again. Are you there?
I think so.
Yay! Finally. Finally. Wow, that took you a while. Hello? Hello? Riley? Damn.
Ranty?
Yeah. You there now?
I think so. Can you hear me?
I can now. Yeah. Yeah, you're a bit low. Let's see if you're coming through all right on the stream. Right, say something.
Am I live?
Yeah, we're live. We're live right now.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'm talking about this Ruhif. You might not have seen his video, but he put a video out. I mean, you've been in the chat, so you might have been following. Or do you want me to go through it again for you?
You'll have to go through it because I started watching the Hangout from the beginning, and I know that you were talking about Ruhif, but I don't know what the video was.
Okay, so back in the day when Taboo Conspiracy was just finding his feet, a bit like, when I first met you when we went to Hoy Lake.
Yeah.
Right? So back when we first went to Hoy Lake, we put our video out about where we were, what the distances were, etc, 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 and then we had the Globers coming back and they were asking us, well, what was your height above sea level, what was this, what was that, it was all a lot of things that we hadn't even really considered, but we had we were able to go back and actually find out those particular answers. Still devastating for the Globe, but it was just a very early indication of the sort of levels of scrutiny you're going to come under when you actually first start off doing your research. Now, Taboo Conspiracy put a video out a long time ago. He was filming across this lake. He saw a distant building, he saw a chimney stack, and he wrongly identified a building. It's not the end of the world. How many times have we misidentified stuff, Tony?
Regularly, because it's all distorted. It's a fuck, you can't tell what you're looking at.
Exactly. So, on his old channel, Taboo Conspiracy, the original Taboo Conspiracy channel, he put this video out. It's been mirrored by somebody else. So Taboo Conspiracy hasn't re-uploaded it. You can't find this video. This is from his old channel that's long lost to YouTube gremlins taking away his channel. It's a video that somebody saved, re-uploaded, and Ruhif's found it, and he's going over it and basically saying, hey, guess what, guys? This isn't flat earth proof at all. And it isn't a flat earth proof video, right? It's one of those things. How do you think they were able to fool the world for so long anyway with this bullshit about a globe? But the simple fact is that Ruhif's dragged this up. Now, I'm not going to say for sure that Ben actually addressed this video in the past and went back over it and said, hey, you know what, I put a video out one time and it was incorrect, it wasn't right. I'm sure he probably did, but there's no proof of doing that anymore because his old channel's gone. And secondly, his new channel has only got exceptional stuff on, so it doesn't have this particular video up. But when we're all starting off and we're all learning this stuff, we make mistakes. So what Ruhif has done is he's dragged up a video that he did when he was first doing his research from a very, very long time ago, and still finding his feet. He had his new P900 camera, he was just trying to find his way on stuff. He doesn't address his mirror flash videos, he doesn't address his Horizon videos, he doesn't do that. He goes back to a video which he can say, you got this wrong and you're an idiot, basically. So he's used this 13-minute video to basically bash him, and it's a very long, drawn out, convoluted way of getting to this end part here, where basically it's proof that what he's actually filming is this water tower. It's a very long, drawn out way. So the whole way he goes through it, it's very measured, it's very calculated. Yeah, we all know what he's getting to. He's getting to the point that he misidentified the building. Big fucking deal, right? How about you address the work that he's doing now? How about you address that? Yeah? What do you say, Tony? Do you think that Ruhif, going back, dredging up really old research, really old videos, is in any way, shape or form advancing their movement to try and counter the advances that Flat Earth have made in the more recent years and months? Do you think going over an old video where he misidentified something and putting his name in the title, right, is in any way, shape or form giving them a leg up to a victory in this debate?
I think because Ruhif is just utterly dishonest. I think that he's another one of these people that will just explain something no matter what as a full earth proof, and he'll just say it even though it's wrong. And even if he happens to be right on this occasion, they only ever pick on the points that they think they've got the most wiggle room on. I mean, I've got a troll on my channel now that keeps asking me a question. Instead of answering a question I've asked him already about 10 times, he keeps asking me a question back, and he's overtly trolling me. But that's what I notice that they do. They ignore obvious points against them and start arguing about minutiae. And the minutiae that they argue about is distracting away from the bigger point. And they do it all the time. It's a tactic to try and belittle and berate somebody based on their own ignorance and their own prejudice. I think Ruhif will avoid all the awkward questions and focus on the things that he thinks, in his opinion, are strong points against a minor point in the video. And if he's made an error on identifying that a building in a video, like you say, so what? I mean, how many times have we been argued about? You can't get it right first time. You have to make the claim in the first place to poke the bear to work out whether you're right or wrong or not, because the horizon's distorted to hell. Whatever happens on the horizon, it varies by the minute, and you've got a snapshot in time where you're looking at something and you perceive it the way you perceive it at the time when you're out there in the cold, wind, rain, doing the thing that you're doing. He's an idiot. I don't even know why you're giving him the time of the day, to be honest.
Well, it's because I put in Taboo Conspiracy's channel this morning and I went looking and I found that Ruhif, and this video, it's only been up a few hours. It's only been up, I think about 7 or 8 hours. So he obviously did this as a retro reaction video to the more recent work, the damning video that we were talking about on last night's Ballbusters show. So we went and we spent over 3 hours on Quantum Eraser's channel going through and discussing it with Ben there, his 40-minute or so long video, which is exceptional flat earth proof, and it's basically bringing together a whole collection of different observations and videos and proofs that conclusively prove that, you know, gravity isn't having an effect on the water. Because it isn't having an effect on the water, it can't be being pulled to the center of the earth. It can't be curving around a ball. And this is the whole point. This is our current research. We've gone beyond observations now, and we're now looking at how flat the water is. Can we get a distance? Can we measure a distance to this supposed reified edge of the Earth's sphere? You know, what they call the horizon. Well, if we see the horizon far further than we should do on a globe, then that completely destroys their argument for the shape and dimensions of the globe that they tell us we live on, right?
Don't forget though. Don't forget Jaron's latest video about theoretical physics, whether or not it's pseudoscience. Do you remember when the Rumpus claimed that in theory, that would mean in theoretical physics, on a clear enough day with a powerful enough zoom and a bit of Paul Voigt's maths, you could in theory see all the way around the Earth and see your own arse in a telescope. But he actually said that. You remember?
He did. But,
so theoretically speaking, it's a bit of a misnomer, this whole argument, because the horizon is a mismatch of everything. But what we do know is whatever it's presenting itself as, it's definitely not presenting itself as a curve.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started off in this argument, you'll remember that we would take observations of distant buildings or whatever, and we would see things that were that obviously had things missing. There was parts of the building that you couldn't see, and quite often that was just it was sort of like blended into the horizon, and it was a very, very tricky subject to try and navigate through, because we were trying to say to them, look, that's an inferior mirage, and they were saying that the inferior mirage was where the Earth curve started. You remember? That was their argument back then. It was always, if it's blockage, it's the reified edge of the sphere. That's what it was, and the inferior mirage started there. But our research has broken through that, to the point where there's so much evidence out there that this inferior mirage isn't the leading edge of the sphere. In fact, it's just an optical blockage, that the Globers even admit it now. The Rumpus is one who clearly admits now that he's beyond, that he's behind the idea that the inferior mirage is not the leading edge of the sphere, as is most Globers, because there's enough evidence out there to prove it. I mean, I've got an image on screen here which has two inferior mirages on two separate boats at different heights. Cannot possibly be on the leading edge of a sphere, so it has to be an optical effect. Now, when they were talking about this 2 years ago, the Globers, right, and they were saying every time we brought an image up and we said, okay, we can see this, but we've got blockage, and they used to say it was the curvature of the Earth, right? Now we know that that's not the case, right? Are we always going back to those individual people and making videos about their comments and saying, do you remember this time I have this snippet of you saying that the inferior mirage was the leading edge of the sphere? Do we keep going back over that? Do we need to go back over that? Do we need to dredge that up?
If we were to do that, though, we would have video after video after video after video after video after video of every bowler. I mean, we don't document like one-liners that they say, whereas they do document one-liners that we say. And they do put videos out in response to that. That's why you've got to be really careful with the phraseology and how you pronounce your words. But no, I mean, we took the piss out of Rumpus on a clear enough day with a powerful enough zoom and a bit of Paul's maths. But we just left that after that. And once that moment's been and gone, we forget it. But we don't troll the chat with Rumpus saying that, although actually we probably should do, because it was funny. But no, we don't keep going back over every single comment that every single ball has ever made, ever. Because there's a greater good that we're looking at, a greater picture, a bigger picture, and the chaff that comes along. You look at how many ballers have come and gone. They'll just drop that troll account and start with a new one. But no is the answer to your question.
But my point is that it seems to me like it's a damage limitation effort. In fact, that's the title of this stream. It is damage limitation. Ruhif has rolled himself out of bed because the video that Taboo Conspiracy, the current research that he's been doing, is so damning to the globe, right? Is so powerful in his research that what he's had to do as a countermeasure to this is to put a video out about a very old video that he did on his old channel that has probably already been addressed by Ben himself, but to go over this, to try and muddy the waters, to try and put his name in the title so that people searching for his current research may bump into this video in the hope that it will somehow damage his reputation. So rather than just saying, do you know what, I'm not going to put a video out about this, I'm actually going to address his current research, yeah? Rather than do that, because I asked him, we actually had a back and forth, And I asked him specifically, because I called him, I said he was cherry picking, and he said that he will address his work. Listen to this comment, Tony. Ready for this? Let's start with flat water. Horizon test proves the physical horizon to be far further than the supposed globe edge. Can you debunk this? This is my question to him. If the horizon over water should be 4 miles away, but the water can be measured at 12 miles away, how is this explained in your fantasy model? Go. Ruhif, can you know what he's going to say?
Yeah, he's going to say, he's going to come back with a distraction so that he doesn't answer the point you've just made, and he demands that you answer some other point about him that's retarded.
He says, it's refraction.
Oh,
And that's usually when flurfers block me rather than trying to learn something. That's his answer. It's refraction. So the greater horizon in the distance, far further away, is all refraction, Tony. Everything.
So, yeah, well, all they do then is what he's doing is he's applying like the magical slider of refraction. He can put as much refraction on it as he needs to explain why it just so always happens to look flat.
Without any no, but this is the flat water. This isn't about a building, Tony, anymore, right? This isn't about looking at Blackpool Tower over the flat water, right? This is about measuring the distance to the horizon and having different land masses that you can actually see where the horizon is, and you can measure the distance to these little outcrops, let's say, and then you by process of doing that, you can measure a distance to the horizon if it's further than the outcrop that you're seeing. And what this is showing, this is demonstrating it's flat water. So it's no longer anything to do now with the distant buildings that you see. It's now the water's being refracted up as well.
Yeah, but what he's doing there is, like I said, he's using the infinite slider of refraction. Basically, when they say refraction, what that really means is the ball is being flattened out to be a plane. Refraction means the flattening out the ball. That's what they mean.
I'm just going to go on to last night's video. I'm going to try and find a particular image. There is one particular image that has a perfect view of these distant rocks and formations. And by process of looking at these different rocks and formations and seeing beyond them, it conclusively proves that the horizon is far further away. In which case, everything in that image must be loomed up. Every single thing.
Yeah.
And it's preposterous. But I want them to actually I want them to verbalize that. I want them to put a video out. I want Ruhif to address this and actually, out of his mouth, say the words. It's being loomed up. You know, to actually say it. What? Put a video out.
If you go back over some of the debates from like 85 onwards on Nathan's, basically Nathan's penny dropped on this point, and he says, so you're saying that the whole of the island is being loomed up, so none of it's real, all of it's a mirage. And that's where that phrase came from. Nathan back then about debate 85, that's when Nathan realised that if their explanation is true, none of the horizon is physical, all of it is apparent based on bending of light around a curve. So all he's doing is he's adding more refraction to flatten out the ball because none of it's supporting his story. So on their model, their explanation is always flattening out the ball by adding more refraction.
Yeah. I mean, but I actually want them to actually put a video out. First, demonstrate to me that you can prove that ambient light, not a beam of light, you can manipulate a laser beam. We all know that can happen, right? We know that you can manipulate a laser beam. However, ambient light is a different thing. It's something that I've been asking these globe heads to try and prove for the longest time, which is seeing a distant building and watching it be loomed up over something, watching it in proportion being loomed up, not just a little portion of it or a little wave or a little bit of refraction here where it's just a bit of distortion, but I'm actually looking for a building in its entirety to be loomed up beyond the curvature of Earth, behind anything, behind a mountain, behind anything at all that they can do. Ambient light, that's ambient light. It's the reflection of light off a building, not a direct beam of light. Yeah?
Are you familiar with the Dang Joss video, the butane gas?
Yes, I am, yeah.
So he used really, really freezing cold. I think it was something like -12 or something like that. Don't quote me on the temperature, but he used freezing cold liquid butane gas, and because it's more dense than air and it's a fluid, it's thicker than air. It allowed him to see plasticine that was behind a curve. Now, what by using the really cold temperature, that was negating the distance, because you can't demonstrate bending light over a curve over distance because it's too big. But what his argument was that if we can do it with temperature instead of distance, then we can demonstrate that this can happen with distance too. So they were like kind of affirming the consequence. If we can make this happen with temperature, then there's no reason why it can't happen with distance. But the problem is, he was looking through a much more dense medium at the time, which is the butane gas. Now, in the atmosphere, we're not looking through more dense medium. We're looking through water vapor, because water is evaporating off the surface, and water vapor is less dense than the environment that you're in, not more dense. That's why water vapor rises. So when Dang Joss is looking through butane, claiming that you can see behind a curve, which in this video was true, he's looking through a more dense medium of butane. In the real world, the water vapor that's evaporated from the surface of the water is less dense, and we know that that bends away from the medium, the normal, and therefore it bends up to the observer, not down. So it ain't bending over a curve; it's bending up, if anything, and that's against the idea of looming. Because if the ray of light was getting to your eye that was being bent up, then that means that it has to be a flat plane. Because on a ball, you wouldn't see anything more than 2 or 3 miles, because it would be bending away from you, and it would be going off into space over your head from behind you. So the fact that you can do this and observe that the water vapor is less dense, but you can still see stuff, that in itself is a flat Earth proof, because it can't happen on a ball.
Water can't stick to a ball, mate. I know. The idea is it's just so preposterous. I have an image on the screen, and this is more to demonstrate the thought process behind the current research, which is to ask this question, right? So what we have here is we have some landmarks, let's say. In the image, we have a rock in the foreground, and we have a couple of rocks in the middle, and beyond that we have what appears to be a boat sitting on the meeting point between the sky and the sea. So what we have here is we have 3 different positions. Now, if it can be determined that where these rocks are, where these birds are sitting on this rock, is a distance of, let's say, 3 miles away. Let's give it an arbitrary distance of 3 miles, and that the observer is 6 feet tall. So in the globe model, the horizon would be essentially at the bottom of these rocks. That's where if you were looking on a globe across this water that's supposed to be curving at 7.98 inches per mile squared, then this is where the Earth curve should be. This is where your end of your curve, of your sphere would be, the edge. This is the edge here. However, we see extended water going further and further and further and further and further away, right to the point where you have a boat sitting up here. Now, in the questions that I've asked to Ruhif in my question is that if you can see, if your horizon should be here, but you see all this extended horizon and a boat, how is that possible on your globe model? So through sickly teeth, he's going to put a video out, I hope, that's going to say that all this is being loomed up, because that has to be their only argument. It's refraction. Everything that you see beyond this rock would be being loomed up. The boat, the water, everything is being loomed up. Yeah? But then I want them to prove it. Go ahead and prove it. Because you cannot have this extra water with the boat there. You can't have it on your globe model. It's either flat water or it's being loomed up. Now go and demonstrate that. Tony, have you ever been able to see a building in a different position when you've gone out filming?
It's always relative, isn't it, to the conditions on the day. We've seen on Skunk Bay that the buildings will stretch and shrink and stretch and shrink, and they are changing their apparent position. But the issue is it bending around a curve, or is it the horizon's flat edge that we're seeing that is being moved up and down because light follows Well, ultimately, it depends on whether you accept that light follows Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light, which states that light will get to its distance in the least amount of time possible, and that means that it deviates from straight in all directions. That's the science. Or do you think that Snell's law applies, and light always bends towards the greater medium, even though you're ignoring Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light, given that he's supposed to be the current science? So it depends on whether you're going to believe the story or believe the science. And to answer your question, I've seen it's always relative. It never moves up and down all by itself. It moves up and down like we see in Skunk Bay, whereas it's there's no pattern to it. It's just random.
Well, in the videos of Skunk Bay, what you see is a lot of distortion. You see a lot of warping, bending, twisting. Things are moving and dancing around in different positions. So you could be looking at a tree on, say, 20 degrees, and then you look at a tree at 30 degrees, and they can be dancing up and down in relation to each other. So they are actually moving their general positions, but they're not actually being loomed up behind. You don't ever see anything behind a rock.
Leading edge.
Yeah,
You're
you don't see anything that's being pulled up from behind anything. You just, what you can actually see in the image is just being warped. It's being twisted. But my point here is that effect, what you see there, is relative to the local spots of area. You know, certain areas will be manipulated, others won't, and you'll have a different relative position to each. So one building will be higher in one frame, a few frames later it'll be in a different position relative to the other. The footage that we see in the majority of times that we go out and we do filming, not just myself, but Ben, but everybody that goes out and does these great flat earth proofs, red pill philosophy, for instance, we look at those buildings in the distance and you can see the individual windows and they are all symmetrical. There is nothing being warped or twisted. There's not one building higher than another relative to its original position. There's nothing being twisted. It's just good visibility. You can actually just see it. Skunk Bay is good for that effect of showing over an entire day what can be the effects as the water rises and goes down again, and that effect of the dirty air that we used to call the dirty air, that area just above the water layer, that has an effect optically. However, when we're talking about flat earth proofs and really good flat earth crystal clear video photography, my Barrow furnace from 18 miles at 1 foot elevation, Red Pill Philosophy's 20 mile video from 6 feet, perfectly flat across perfectly flat water, with no distortions of the buildings that we're trying to view. Right now, that can't happen with the demonstration that we're talking about when we're looking at Skunk Bay, because they're all waving and dancing around.
Yeah, but hang on. Skunk Bay applies every time you go to the horizon or over a water a shot. The bit that you need to be aware of or remember is that the atmosphere behaves like a fluid and it's non-isotropic. It varies from point to point to point to point. So down the corridor of light that you're looking down, because you're looking through eyeballs or camera lenses or whatever, that point that you're looking at in the distance is varying along its path from point to point to point. It varies up as well as down, as well as left, as well as right, mainly up and down, because that we live in a dense gradient.
I think that's more to do with the evaporation effects over water. I think that's to do with the humidity in the air.
Yeah, you're right, but the point is it varies from point to point to point.
But if you have very little, on days where there's very little humidity, though, I actually feel that
it still varies from point to point, though, because it's non-isotropic.
Yeah, I agree. In where I live, the temperature here can be 10 degrees. Over in Preston, which is just 15 miles away, it could be 8 degrees. And if you're trying to film something over water and you're looking at, say, the Welsh mountains, you can be looking across a span of 100 miles in your viewfinder. So you're clearly looking over great distances that have different temperature inversions. However, you never see them dancing around. You see them still, you can take an image of them and then you can line them up and they all match up perfectly.
Yeah, but if you did it as a function of time, you would see them do what Skunk Bay does, in the sense that it will move up and down and it'll vary. But they'll say that the moving up and down is refraction bending up round the back of a curve, And we say, no, it's just a convergent point. The dirt, that line on the horizon, the vanishing point, is being distorted because light is travelling through a medium that's non-isotropic. That is what the science tells us. But they ignore that because they want their science to be Snell's law. Well, that's not what Snell's law doesn't apply in the atmosphere because it doesn't have a hard barrier. So,
well, my point.
Depends on what story you.
Yeah. I mean, my point here is for Ruhif to answer that. You know, he's obviously poked the bear here. He's put a video out against Taboo Conspiracy on one of his very, very early videos when he was first starting off, and he's done that as I've saying it again. He's gaslighting him. He's trying to mitigate the work that he's been doing more recently. It's what a lot of the Globers do. I mean, quite often I'm sure they go back to some of your early stuff and they're always bringing it up. You know, they don't address the current research that you're doing. So, Ruhif, seeing as you've already poked the bear and you already want to actually engage in this conversation, you've risen from your pit, I suggest you start going into the current research and start addressing this these observations of seeing the horizon at a far greater measured distance than there should be on a globe, because as you've already said, you're going to turn around and say it's refraction. Well, you've put a lot of work into debunking what was essentially a pretty easy video to debunk because it was one of his earliest research, and it wasn't really a difficult thing. It was just picking out a building, so it wasn't really that hard to do. But you know, being that you're now poking your head into this argument, and because I want this answered, because I've asked this for the past 2 years, and you have skirted around actually addressing this, but now that you're here and you're actually putting your head above the parapet to be shot at, I want you to address these points. Distant horizontal shots, where you can see the horizon at a far greater distance than you should do on a globe. Go ahead, tell us that it's refraction, and then prove to us that it's refraction. Prove to us that that light has been bent up beyond the reified edge of the curve. Not just the boat, but all the other rocks in the distance that you see, the different land masses. Tell us how it's all being bent up. Go ahead and produce your video. I look forward to seeing your research about how you're going to debunk these observations, because we see too far, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, don't forget though, Ruhif's got to be in his bonnet currently because he thinks that from Nathan's debate 75 to about 100, we were arguing over whether what we were seeing in that Isle of Man stuff. Ruhif thinks that we've got the original Jeremy Gem Panda identified Mackle Lighthouse, and basically it was behind the curve. But in identifying the lighthouse, that formed basically the point that we were arguing about for the longest of times. And Ruhif thinks that we've got that wrong, or that Jeremy's got that wrong. He doesn't think that the lighthouse is the lighthouse. Everybody agrees that it's the lighthouse because it's a tall, cylindrical, penis-looking thing, and it's the only thing that's big in the picture. And lighthouses are generally bigger than houses. He thinks it's some little church chapel thing that's like a single story high that's behind some hedges, and it's like it's a single story high. It's not tall and thin and phallic looking. Everybody knows that that's the lighthouse. Everybody can accept it without even questioning it. But for some reason, he thinks that's not that isn't the lighthouse, and I can't take him seriously because he's a moron. So perhaps you might be getting a little bit irate by some dude that nobody really cares about. He's just a troll.
It's. Do you know what? I'll be honest. What the whole point of this is. Let me go back to Ruhif. Let me bring him back up again. So this is the dude. This is his channel. He's actually gained a few more subscribers, which you would expect to do, because what he's doing is he's actually putting. He's tagging somebody, a prominent flat earther in his actual video, and he's doing that to try and make himself sound like he's some kind of relevant person in this debate, somebody that you can rely upon to get great globe earth proofs from the globe earth side. But what he's actually done here is he's actually taken probably the least well researched video that Taboo Conspiracy's probably ever put out, probably one of his least researched proofs, and taken it apart to prove that a building that he thought he saw in the image wasn't actually the building. completely ignoring the fact that his current research, and he's doing that just to muddy the waters. So I wanted to actually put this out there to say to people, look, this is what these globeheads do. They don't want to address the current research. They want to try and discredit the person. They're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in the research. They're interested in bringing the person down. And this is why he's titled the name in the title of his video, and this is why he's done a very convoluted video exposing the fact that he got something wrong years ago.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they don't even accept that me and you got that. You know that when we did Hoylake to Blackpool Tower and we stood next to that little telescope next to the RNLI building, they don't accept that that's where we were stood. They think that that's entirely consistent with a sphere Earth, and it's like they're just morons.
They don't think what? Sorry, they don't think that we were stood on that place.
They don't accept that we were where we say we were. They argue that we were somewhere else, and if they do accept it, they say that it's entirely consistent with a sphere Earth, and it's like, no, you don't understand. A sphere Earth puts this thing behind the curve. You can't see it, but we can see it.
I actually, here we go. So DSCN 103 and 104. So 104 was the first image that I tried taking using the 10-second delay, and then trying to, I think I was taking it, I think it was about 8 seconds of image, well, whatever. I put it on delay and etc, etc. So this was the video that I did just prior. Let me just...
Idea what time it is?
Yeah, it was a long exposure, wasn't it?
So here we are on the place that we told everybody where we were. This was the exact spot. So I've actually got the video up right now.
Some of them don't believe that's where we took it from, and some of them that do accept that's where we took it from claim that it's consistent with a sphere Earth anyway.
Well,
because they still apply refraction at night time, and obviously whatever refractive effects are going on through the day in terms of like distortion, it's a lot clearer at night time because the sun's not there to mix it all up. So when the sun's not there and you're looking at something that's a big massive triangle-shaped, penis-shaped coloured thing, blue, you can see that this thing we're seeing more of it than what we should be seeing. We should just be seeing the tippy top of it, but we're seeing all of it, and right the way down to the ballroom. And that's impossible on a ball because the curve's supposed to be in the way. And you know, you were there that day, and you've been there numerous times before. You can see it, and they just can't accept it.
Well, there's the in the image. I mean, I can actually see it on my screen, so I don't know whether it's feeding through to the audience, but we can actually see the tower there. There's the love heart on the actual tower itself, and there's the big one. There's the big light on the big one. Obviously, this is video footage, so, and you're filming at night time. It's that's why we had to use the long exposure on the actual camera, and we had to set it so that we weren't touching the camera, so we had to give a 10-second delay. And it was quite windy, if you remember, so we were having to put our coats over the tripod and weigh the tripod down because I had a crappy tripod. Do you remember? And we were trying all sorts of things to try and get the shots. But this was a video, as I say. This was a video. You can actually see the same things in this particular shot. You can actually see it, but it proves our location because this is the exact spot where we were off the railings at the exact time. You actually even hear me saying in the video what time is it.
Just out of curiosity. About 8-ish, 10 past 8. More than that. No, 10 past 9. 10 past 9.
There we go.
Just out of curiosity. About 8-ish, 10 past 8. More than that. No, 10 past 9. 10 past 9, 21:08. Right. It is 21:08.
There you go. So there's me speaking the time. It's 21:08.
We're going to have a look. See what we can see here.
And this was the first time we met up. So these globeheads that say that we weren't in this spot, we weren't at this location, this is absolute proof that we were indeed exactly where we say we were. And then obviously we have the list of photos that we took one after the other. We were testing things around with the long exposure. Eventually we got the shots. I'm trying to think do you know what the number was which was the best one of that particular one?
No idea. I mean, I can't even see what you're showing or hear what you're saying, but
Oh, right,
It's okay.
okay.
Yeah, but, I mean, the point is, though, Ranty, they'll deny anything that they don't believe fits their narrative. Anything, they'll just deny it anyway. And they've got absolutely no evidence to support why they deny it. They just deny it. But they will deny it in such a way that is very, like, persuasive to their friends on their side. Because if they're able to just flippantly deny it, then that allows them all to then deny it too. And that's what happens. They just have one sacrificial lamb that will just go, yeah. And then they can all do it.
And as I say, it's interesting that we have just 418 views on his actual video, and we have 162 likes. Tony, how often do you get nearly a 50% click-through on the like on any particular video? This is how desperate these Globers are to...
well, to be honest, normally I get like 100 dislikes to like 10 likes, so I'm probably not the right person to be asking that question.
Well, in my opinion, 418 views and 162 likes is proportionally favourable to any video. You would normally expect maybe not even 10%, maybe 5% of likes and maybe a couple of percent of dislikes, but this like to dislike ratio tells me that either you've got one particular fella that just keeps thumbing it up on his multiple sock accounts, or you have a lot of very thirsty Globers out there desperate for any kind of semblance of a victory. And in their case, this is a victory. There's no denying it's a victory because he got it correct. Taboo Conspiracy got it incorrect, but it was all part of his learning process from a video he did a long time, many years ago. And why on earth they would decide to drag this up now is only because of his current research and how exceptional his current research actually is. Very dishonest, Ruhif. Very poor form, actually. And as I say, I mean, I don't recall this particular observation, to be honest, but it's quite obviously a very old one, and it's also probable that Ben actually put a retraction video out. What would you think? I mean, we've done retraction videos in the past.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm not even sure which video you're referring to. I'm looking at a blank screen because I'm on Skype, but and I haven't seen the Enlisted Hangout. But I don't know. I think overall, I think that no matter what happens, if you get a baller killing video, the next video that will come out for Ranty will be something that they've got against you that they think is valuable. For me, it might be something like triangles, for example. So no matter what the content of the video is, they just say triangles, and then that is enough for them to just say, well, I don't need to listen to or address any other part of the video that you make. Well, the same applies for Ruif, Mackle Lighthouse, Blackpool Tower.
Yeah.
So it works for them, then it works for us too.
But is it a case of that they're going after this is all they have left now, is to go after the prior research of the individual, rather, and that's why they record everything. I'll tell you who does that. Timmy Osman. He has a massive server, and he has a lot of. In fact, every single time that a flat earther puts a video out, he automatically downloads it. So he has a collection of every single flat earther's video in his extensive library, and that's what they do.
Who's Tim Osman?
Tim Osman. You know.
Who's he?
Girly feet, girly ankles.
No, I know. I'm being facetious in the sense that he's not relevant. They haven't got anything. Every time we go out and do something, now that we know more about what we're looking at and what we're seeing and how to interpret what we're looking at and what we're seeing, they don't have anything because none of it is consistent with the sphere. It always just so happens to look flat, and it always just so happens to require further and more refraction because it was always just so happens to be more the normal 7/6R, which is nonsense anyway. Light doesn't follow a curved path. But they haven't got anything, Ranty, and they think they have, and they've got people like Dawn Treader UK that'll sit there all in each other's willy with them. But the reality is, every observation now that we know what we're talking about, we can interpret it the way that it is presented to be consistent with a flat plane that's being distorted. And it's not a sphere being distorted.
Yeah, what's interesting here is some of the comments. So from Pets Pro, I always wonder why Globtards make proper analysis and calculations, but Flatards only say, but it looks flat to me. Nice work, thumbs up. So already this guy, this Pets Pro, he's making a current link with the research that he's doing with an old video. What they forget is that it's such an old video that he was just finding his feet, a bit like us when we first started off.
Actually, the way I read his comment was more like, read his comment again.
I always wonder why Globtards make proper analyses and calculations, but flatards only say, but it looks flat to me. So in other words, we just say it looks flat, and they apparently do proper research. Yeah,
but the way I interpret that is what he's demonstrating there is his own bias and his own cognitive dissonance, because what he described by the ballers as, quote, proper calculations, I think that's what the word he used, that actually is where the lie comes from, because it's the calculations that they're applying that are false.
Yeah.
Light doesn't travel in a curved path over 7.6R. It's that simple. It doesn't do that. It varies from point to point following Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light. That means it goes up as well as down. And when you look at the vapor that the light is traveling through, we know that vapor is less dense than the medium that it's in. Hence the reason why the vapor is rising up and you get the shimmering. Well, that means that the light bends up, not down. And all of the observations and tests that Dr. John and F.E. Core have been doing recently, they all support that assertion that light curves up, not down. So this 7.6R proper calculations isn't actually proper at all. That's where the lie is in the maths. So that to me is just a massive red flag to the I'll believe any calculations so long as they're on the ball earth side, and I'll call them proper because I believe maths. And it's the maths that's the lie. So for me, that's just perfectly illustrating just cognitive dissonance and cognitive bias.
From John Michelson, this is another comment on the video. He says, is he just recycling this garbage recently? No, he's not. This is somebody else re-uploaded a video that he did a very long time ago. He goes on to say, I already destroyed this a long time ago. Indeed, it's an old video that's probably been long addressed, what would you say, Tony, when you actually go back and you actually retract it? You know, probably Ben went back and retracted this video a very long time ago. Somebody else re-uploaded this video recently and they're tagging him in it, and then Ruhif is coming back and using that to bash him, which is so fucking unfair because it isn't addressing his current research. Let's just see how long ago this guy apparently paced. That isn't it.
Yeah, just remember we're talking about Ruhif.
Yeah, he's dishonest. It's as simple as that, and I just wanted to highlight it because it's really I don't know what it was. This just really irked me this morning.
Ruhif is the Australian version of Miles the Liar Davis. He will just pop up every now and again, and he'll do a video, and he'll just claim in his pompous Australian accent, a bit like Miles the Liar Davis. Oh well, this is entirely consistent with a spherical Earth, and the reality is, all you're doing is applying mathematics based on a perceived bent. It's just nonsense. But my point is that he's just like Miles the Liar Davis, no better.
Okay, so let's see how long ago this was, right? So, on the 7th of October, 2017, John Michelson went over the same video that Debunking Ruhif actually regurgitated again today. So, we're talking 2 years and 2 months ago. 2 years and 2 months ago, John Michelson already addressed this video. And yet we've got now Ruhif going back and doing the same thing to try and discredit him. That's how poor. That's how snidey this snivelling little rat is.
He's a weasel.
He is a weasel, mate. He is a weasel. Listen, I don't know whether to do the results of the TEOTY awards on this stream. I might just leave it as a separate stream and do another one.
Yeah, definitely leave it as a separate. Do it as a dedicated stream and put an advert up beforehand.
Yeah. Are you available later to go through it?
Are you thinking of doing it this evening?
Well, whenever. What do you think? What time would be good for you?
I'd leave it until either just after New Year or just before New Year. Well, kind of in no matter.
Well, it's to do it. I'd like to do it today if possible. because I want to get some more voting on the top 3. We have a result for the top 3.
I don't know. You'll have to. I might be free later on this Arvo.
What time? 4ish.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Right. Well. Okay. So we'll go live at 4. We'll do it for an hour or so.
Okay.
All right. And I'll try. I might try and bring a couple of extra people and just have a chat with them as well.
All right. No worries.
Right. I'll say goodbye to you now, and I'll round up the stream. All right. But speak to you in a bit.
All right. See you in a bit.
Bye.
Bye.
Right, guys. So, that was my essentially little rant this morning. Wow, 104 people watching. Excellent stuff. I know that Arwin will be going live soon too, in around about 30 minutes. So if you haven't had the chance to actually catch up on what he's been up to, you can see him in the chat right now. He has a little blue icon, Arwidgeon, with a tree. Go over there and subscribe if you get the opportunity, and watch his early bird show. Starts at 1 p.m. In the meantime, I will be going live again at 4 p.m. this afternoon, so it is 12:23 now, so 3.5 hours, and we'll be revealing the results of the top 3 TEOTY awards, and the voting and who is in the top 3. So tune in for that. Yeah, just wanted to expose this motherfucker, because I think it's so disingenuous, and it really is a kick in the teeth to the current research, but this is all they have. This is all they have. In the meantime, that'll do for now. Thank you everyone for stopping by. Hope you've all had a great Christmas. I've had a terrible Christmas with the flu, but that's just the way it is. Getting better now though, so hopefully I will see you all again later. I think Nathan will probably be doing one at 2 o'clock, so you got Arwin at 1, Nathan at 2, me at 4 p.m, and then probably Globusters tonight as well. So in the meantime, that'll do for now, and I'll see you all in the next one.